Quarterback is healthy, but the hip injury he suffered is still, quote, part of the conversation for his Week 1 status. Nick, when do you think Tua should start?
Well, with respect to Brandon Marshall's great friend Ryan Fitzpatrick, I've got to say Week 1. Listen, it's 2020, and in this generation, you start rookie quarterbacks as early as you can. If he's healthy, he starts, I think. And so, to me, Tua's the obvious and easy choice in Week 1, Brandon.
Listen, I had 3 hip surgeries, 2 on the left, 1 on the right, a microfracture surgery on the left. This is a serious deal. Now, you can get up and running fairly fast, but your routine after is everything. Like, he has to make sure all his stabilizing muscles from his core to his hip to his thighs, his hand, like everything needs to be on. You hear Flores already talking about he's concerned. He's a little worried months out of this major surgery. And I also believe that the Dolphins are trying to win. So, no, he shouldn't play right now. The only time we should even think about him coming in is when the Dolphins are officially out of the playoffs and Tua is actually healthy. All right? Ryan Fitzpatrick, you mentioned him, Fitzmagic. He gives the Dolphins the best opportunity to win. So, for that reason, you go with him.
Wow. Big endorsement for Fitzy there. On to the Nuggets, advancing, crazy finish to Jazz Nuggets Game 7. Denver wins 80-78 to move on and face the Clippers in round 2. Nick Wright, how should Donovan Mitchell feel after Utah blew the 3-1 series lead here?
Oh, listen, he should feel it's very bittersweet, and they did blow a 3-1 lead, and he had a turnover at the very end. But he needed a great playoff series, even though they didn't win. And without Bogdanovich, they were heavy underdogs after his playoff performance last season. His rookie year, he had an 38 points in a closeout game against Paul George and Russell Westbrook. Last year was disappointing by his standards. I think this year, even though Wilds, as you pointed out, he had some big mistakes, I think he's got to feel pretty damn good about how well he played overall, positioning himself for next season.
This shot is just heartbreaking. Like, the fact that he could have redeemed his turnover, he's just sitting there and Conley brings the ball up and doesn't give it to him. I think that if he gets that ball, he makes that, Nick, and they move on, and it becomes a historic shot. I think he had a great series. Yeah, he had some little learning mistakes, but I think when we look back the career of Donovan Mitchell, we'll look at this series as a defining moment for him, Brandon.
I mean, he should be proud of himself. I mean, if anything, it should validate what he already feels about himself. Listen, I have so much respect for you guys. I'm starting to get in the rhythm in Week 2. Now I'm learning, and I'm like, man, I need Donovan Mitchell to pull this through because I had so many hot takes. What came to mind was, wow, slow up the Luka train. Last week, I talked so much about Luka, and I'm like, hot, straight out the gate. Luka's the face of the NBA. Luka's the face of the NBA. I now want to change that. Bring the Luka train back.
You wanted to do
Donovan Mitchell.
No, he didn't. He won't.
Yes.
He can't do it yet. No, Jim, move on. Don't let him say it. Don't let him say it. Go on. Brandon. Keep that one in the oven.
Not ready.
Keep that. Let that one bake a little bit longer.
All right, we're gonna welcome in Michael Vick to talk some football now. Get you back on track here. Bucks taking on the Saints. Week 1 on Fox. Head coach Bruce Arians hoping to have Rob Gronkowski at full go for that game, saying the team will, quote, play it by ear with Gronk's Week 1 snap count. Keeping in mind, if he does play that first game, it'll have been 589 days since the rugged tight end will have taken the field. Mike, what are your expectations for Gronk after taking a year off?
Oh, well, I do know this, that year, yes, he did fine analyst work for Fox. I could see that burning desire for him to get back to football, and without even asking him the question and just talking to him, without even asking him, I knew he was coming back. I told a lot of people that Gronk was going back to play, and that's because of his burning desire to be back out on the field. Not knowing that it was going to be a match made in heaven with Tom Brady or Bruce Arians, I think that just happened to fall in place for him. But you know, Gronk understands he's 31 years old. You know, he's not getting any younger. You know, some tread on the tires, but still has a lot left. But he wants to maximize his opportunity. And, you know, if the hunger's still there, you know, you got to go out there and fulfill that hunger. And Gronk still loves the game of football. And he's paired back up with Tom Brady and a great offensive-minded coach in Bruce Arians, who's going to put the ball in his hands. I think the pitch count is going to be very important as to his snaps. But that's something they can monitor. That's what O.J. Howard is there for. O.J.'s in a great situation. Fame will work in front of him and split snaps, so that'll keep Gronk healthy and happy until late in the year when it's time for him to really get out there and shine.
Mike, I'm so glad you brought up Gronk's age. Man, this guy is 31 years of age, okay? When I was 32, 33, I had some of my best years. Gronkowski is not only going to have an effective, efficient year and a big year, he can potentially play till he's 35, 36 in the right situation. And this is the perfect situation for Gronk because, one, yes, Tom Brady, they have a relationship there. But outside of that, the biggest factor is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Like, he's not the number one anymore. This is a situational football player. We're talking about third down, Gronk's going to dominate. We're talking about red zone.
I think we lost Brandon.
But
you know what? The guy who snuck in sniffed the internet.
Go ahead, Wilds.
Mike's right. Mike's absolutely right. We got to moment, Wilds. Brandon Marshall, during the last break, he said, I think someone broke into my house, but he was very nonchalant about it. And then we heard him talking to somebody and said, hey, you're messing with my internet. You can't do that. And now I think the guy didn't listen to him. So we'll get Brandon back. Wilds, I do have to ask you, though, my friend. I mean, is this, what is the hearing Mike Vick and Brandon Marshall wax poetic about what this Brady-Gronk combo is going to be? What is that doing to you emotionally? And what do you think it's going? Because I feel like you're sitting there watching, you know, not only an X move on, but thrive and it being analyzed on national television. Like about how wonderful they are positioned. And I feel like it's a really rough spot for you.
Okay, so my dad is a contractor, and he's got multiple garages full of tools. And if I want to borrow a tool, he'll say, don't mess it up. I'm like, Dad, you literally have 5 of this specific tool. He said, don't mess it up. It's mine. That's the way I feel a little bit with Bruce Arians. Very fragile. No. Don't go beating them up like you did Big Ben and Andrew Luck and Carson Palmer.
I'm back.
I'm back. I want to treat Gronkowski with kid gloves, Mike. I don't want him. I want him in red zone situational. And I will throw it to you, Mike, because I heard you say something very interesting a few months ago about your relationship with Algie Crumpler, that you would kind of lean on him. I'll put words in your mouth here, as almost like a security blanket when things were going wrong. Oh, Crump is there. Do you think there's going to be a similar situation with Tom Brady where everything is new and he looks at old Reliable sitting there? He's like, I always got Gronk. And is that a good thing for Tampa Bay?
Absolutely not. From what Brandon just alluded to, having Mike Evans and Chris Godwin changes the whole dynamic of the offense. Now, Gronk becomes the third option, or he becomes the fourth option.
Gotcha.
And I don't think Tom Brady minds that at all because the ball is going to go down the yard to Mike Evans and Godwin continuously throughout. And it's going to be fun to watch. It's great to see Gronk in a position where he doesn't have to be the focal point and where he can take the back seat and kind of do his job and let things happen naturally. And Bruce Arians has to be one of the happiest coaches in the league. This is just the greatest opportunity that you can ever fall in, getting Tom Brady, getting Gronk, along with the team that's been assembled already. It's just going to be magic this season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think starting week 1.
Brandon, I want to ask you, Michael Vick said Tom Brady wouldn't mind that if Gronk is not his #1 guy. Would Gronk mind that? Gronk has had one mindset his whole career. He's the guy. He's Brady's top target. Do you think he has to make an adjustment coming in, not being the guy when you got...
What he's walking into, it reminds me of my transition from the Jets to the Giants. That was the first thing I was thinking about. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy, and everybody asked that question. Well, can Brandon transition to the #2? And in my head, I thought I was actually going to have a big year because... one receiver, and we also had Sterling Shepard in the slot. So what did that tell me? That they're going to have to roll coverage to Odell. They're going to double team him. So that leaves me one-on-one with the #2, #3 cornerback. We didn't take advantage of it. We had a lot of struggles, but that's the mentality. Like, Gronk is 31. If he wants to extend his career, not only play well this year, but well into his 30s, then he's going to embrace this role because it's the perfect role for him. Why play 70 snaps and have 700 yards when you can play 30 and have 700 yards? It makes the most sense to me.
So just quickly, though, and this is the concern for the Bucs that I feel, at least, and it doesn't seem like anyone else on this show does, though. What happened with what was going to be a great situation with the Giants with you, Brandon, aside from some injury to your fellow receivers? It's that the once great quarterback got really old And when you guys break down the Tampa Bay Bucks, like when you break down the Tampa Bay Bucks, it is true. They have amazing weapons. Like Mike Evans, I don't think he's the best receiver in football, but he is the most physically imposing. Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is why it didn't work. I'm 6'5", 230. Mike Evans is 6'5", 230 as well. You don't have to get cute. Mike, you know this. Just drop back one-on-one, throw it up. Like Tom Brady can at least do that. If we're saying, okay, let's say he's old. Let's say he can only throw 50 yards down the field. He can't throw past that, a yard past that. It doesn't matter. One-on-one, go to your guy. Just throw it to him. His range is ridiculous. His radius, his catch radius is out of this world. Just throw it anywhere in his area and you'll be fine.
That's totally fair. And he's never... Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, Nick, but I'm thinking about, you know, the defensive side of the ball for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who's going to make the offense. They're going to have more opportunities. You know, I was naive to the fact that Todd Bowles is the defensive coordinator, and I've been around Todd Bowles, and I know his resume and what he can do, and Bruce Arians knows that as well, so that's going to bring more opportunity for the offense because the defense is going to play better. You know, I hate to talk about defense right now, but I think that's going to be a catalyst for the offense, getting opportunities, guys like Gronk being, you know, valuable in their own right.
And where Brady will instantly make the defense better is they're not going to be walking off the field trying to grab a cup of Gatorade and immediately having to walk back on the field because Brady just threw a pick. Will he change his style to where he's more comfortable throwing it up because he's got a receiver who can go get it when he hasn't had a guy like that in over a decade since he had Moss? I know Wilds loves to talk about, you know, future Patriots Ring of Honor member Julian Edelman, but Edelman, obviously, the skill set could not be more different from that compared to. But when it comes to Gronk, just to put a button on this, the one thing Mike and Wilds and Brandon all said that I 1,000% agree with is whether he's got 1 year left or 4 years left, where he will be most effective and where I believe Brady will lean on him like old times is the red zone. And unlike those famous clips we've seen of Gronk being bracket covered in the red zone by two corners or a corner and a safety, you don't have the numbers for that if Mike Evans is on the field at the same time. Like, if you have to single cover one of those two guys who are combined between the two of them, 13 feet tall or just an inch shy of that, you're going to only have bad options. So, like, that is where I think Gronk, even if his body can't, 6'6" and 6'5", that's a combined near 13 feet wide.
We're combining how tall people are?
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. That's not the way. The point is that there is not a great, Thank you, Jenna.
We don't have to wait long to see how that will work. Saints, week 1 in New Orleans on Fox against those Bucks. Speaking of the Saints, are they actually considering trading Alvin Kamara before the season starts? Find out next. But before we go, my guy, Andy Reid, already with a plan for his new Super Bowl ring. Take a listen.
Yeah, you wear it for special occasions, or if you want a free cheeseburger, you just point right